or pen RPG. My name is Josiah Mork, and I'm really excited to walk you through this second module of the pen RPG's 5 modules. Unlike most role-playing games where you have to learn it in a big chunk, Pen is designed that you can get started with just a couple pages and add more modules at your own pace to increase the customizability, tactical actions, and complexity of the game. In this second module, you get to create your very own fully customizable character and start interacting with the game's numerous item systems. A lot of role-playing games will give you the option of combining set numbers of races and classes. This is a classic tradition kind of handed down from Dungeons and Dragons, but it really boxes characters into certain archetypes that limit the variability and the personality of the characters that you can create. It's especially true because some combinations of races and classes don't really go super well together, and so most people wouldn't really choose them just because they'll put your character at a disadvantage. Pen throws all of that out, and instead makes character creation something that's truly expressive of you and the playstyle that you want to pursue. To create a character, all you have to do is assign 65 skill points into 16 different skills. Once you assign these skill points, you'll have those skills levels, a number between 0 and 10, which reflects how good your character is at each of those skills. By combining those skills in different combinations and assigning those points in different amounts, you can have full control over what your character is good at and maybe what their weaknesses are. You also get to assign characteristics to your character, which do reflect some of those backgrounds, races, classes, experience, heritage. Anything that's unique about your character and their history or their backstory is expressed through characteristics. Characteristics are sorted in 2 different ways. Their perks and quirks versus their extremity. Perks are good things that your character has, or things that are going to help them when they're going out telling a story or adventuring. Perks are extra abilities, special powers, advantages to skills, extra dice, extra items, things like that. Even just role-playing things, like being able to recognize patterns in the sky to better navigate their character. Quirks are things that might make life a little bit harder for your character. They range from disabilities to bad habits to bad experiences in life or difficult challenges, things that they just struggle to overcome that might set your character back in certain circumstances. And then both of these, perks and quirks, are sorted into 3 different extremities: minor, medium, and major. Your character is allowed to take a set number of both perks and quirks, but for each that they take of a certain extremity, they must take a corresponding amount of the same extremity. So for example, if I found a really amazing perk that I wanted for my character that was a major perk, I would have to take a corresponding major quirk. In this way, your character is balanced by both their advantages and their disadvantages, creating a more well-rounded and expressive version of whoever it is you want to play in the game. This massive customizability also means that you get to break some of those typical stereotypes of what a character can be when they were limited by classes and races. Unlike the set number that you have in a game like Dungeons and Dragons, Pen gives you over 2.6 quadrillion possible characters that you can play by combining characteristics in different, fun, and unique ways. It also opens up an explosion of different archetypes and playstyles. Whether you want to be an artificer crafting items, coming up with unique contraptions and spells sewn into their machinery, you want to be a classic fighter, you want to be a warrior monk, you want to be a spellcasting investigator, you want to be a librarian, anything that you can think of, you can do with the Pen RPG. You can even play as a stuffed animal with extra abilities for picking up your stuffing to regain life. All of these options are available to you as long as your GM says that it fits with the setting. Once you've created your character, then you get to pick your starting items and start learning more about the item systems in the game. Items are sorted into a variety of categories, including weapons, armor, equipment, standard items, and cargo. Weapons and armor are pretty self-explanatory. They give your character certain bonuses if your character is wearing them or using them when they're engaging in combat. Equipment similarly gives your character little bonuses and advantages or special abilities when they're making certain skill rolls or they're in certain role-playing storytelling situations. Standard items are a special innovation that we used in Pen to reflect the mechanical impact of role-playing decisions. Role-playing is when your character is pretending, or when you are pretending to be your character. You're dialoguing with the other players at your table as though you were your characters sitting in this fantasy world telling the story together, or rather living the story together. The problem is it's difficult to kind of reflect what those decisions and the advantages of those dialogues are in traditional role-playing games. You want to incorporate those fun moments into the overall story and the skill rolls that you make, but they kind of feel divorced from the actual mechanics and rules of the game when it's just storytelling and rules for rolling. To get the storytelling to better mesh with the rules, we've created standard items. Standard items are food, maps, clues, and loot, which allow your character certain advantages when they use them. Loot is the universal currency in the game. Whenever you're making money buying or selling, you're using loot, which makes it super easy to translate the same expenses for the Pen role-playing game into any setting you're using, whether it's colonial America or sci-fi Star Trek. This general currency makes sure that the exchange is pretty much the same based on the rules in the game. It's also a super fun discovery mechanic, because when your character acquires loot, they can choose to either take it as currency or they can choose to roll on a random table and generate a random item that they've discovered when they found that loot. This again gives a tremendous amount of customizability to your character's exploration by letting you decide whether you want to risk it to try and find a better item by rolling on the table, or storing it and saving it to buy that better item at a later point in the game. Maps and clues both give your characters advantages when you're searching out locations or trying to solve puzzles respectively. For example, instead of spending a whole session trying to find a hidden temple in the jungle, if your character has talked with a couple NPCs and your game master has awarded your character maps as a result, you can just cash in those maps and fast travel to that location because your character already knows where it is from talking to the locals. Similarly, if you are trying to get a certain politician or a prince to take your side, you can talk with some of the locals to learn some of the hot gossip about them and collect some clues about what might be going on. Then when you talk to that prince in person, instead of having to make really difficult persuasion rolls or even outright fight them, you can cash in those clues to know something about them that gives you an edge and makes those rolls easier. This is just one of the awesome ways that we are melding the storytelling with the mechanics to make it easier for players who might not be as familiar with tabletop role-playing games to understand how the storytelling affects the game. The last type of item that you can get in this are cargo. Cargo is a special mechanic that is created for your characters just to make money. These are different categories of general bulk items that your character might want to buy and sell in order to make money, like food, artifacts, chemicals, weapons, and the like. These are generally quite pricey and they don't really have a mechanical impact, but your characters can buy them, stash them on vehicles that they buy, and when they travel to a new location, the GM will use a system for evaluating the new price of those items. If the price is higher, your characters can sell your cargo to make a profit and use that profit or save it up to buy bigger and better items and vehicles. This built-in mechanic has a couple unexpected pivots though. If you roll poorly or if certain hazards are triggered, then you might lose your cargo altogether and all of that money invested, or it might position you in a disadvantageous position with that new location. So you have to be careful. Still, it's a great way for your characters to acquire money and level up their item game faster than you might be able to in a traditional role-playing game. With this chapter, Module 2 gives you a ton of options already in creating a character that best expresses you and the playstyle that you want to play, and uses items to open up the world of storytelling and create a ton of mechanical impact for all of the decisions that you want to make. In the next video, we're going to be looking at Module 3, which gives you even more options with freeform magic, combat maneuvers, NPC management, and battles. Stay tuned.